Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Menino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hi, everybody. It's Michael Menino, and welcome to Driven Unscripted Success podcast. Today on the podcast, we're interviewing professionals who share their experience with you, the audience, and how they got to where they're at today. Zooming from the beautiful islands of West Palm Beach, we have Robert Sherman. How you doing, young man?
I'm doing great. How are you? Pleasure to be here.
Better than I deserve. So Robert was telling me about what he does at SoloXR, and it's a very interesting educational platform. Or what do you? Do me a favor. Tell everybody what you do. What we just talked about.
Sure. So SoloXR is an organization that focuses on immersive learning, which involves presenting content to a learning community, whether it's trainees or students or those within an organization that need to be upskilled in a way that they can experience the content firsthand or access to heavy equipment, industrialized equipment firsthand prior to being placed in that environment. So an example might be, and this would include virtual reality, augmented reality, extended reality, and examples might include situations where you can't otherwise put your employee. It's either too costly in a place. So, for instance, say there's a train derailment, and how often can you go and stage a derailment? So sometimes what the most effective way is to actually simulate that environment, and all of the education curriculum leading up to that derailment, and all of the steps that someone would take in order to respond to that can be taken in a virtual setting with no risk. And, as you approach it, you size up the disaster. You can imagine a set of cadence that you would follow and things that you can do right and areas you can fail, but you can do it multiple times. And so that would be an example where immersive learning is quite useful. It could be VR. It doesn't necessarily have to be within the VR goggles. It could be, just like, a first person player experience that we like to play as well. So, emergency vehicle fires, you can't blow up a battery. It's very toxic, but how do firefighters address, such a dangerous situation? Things like that. So there's a multitude of applications, and it's really good. It drives retention, it drives engagement, and honestly, the new students, the younger cohorts especially, kind of expect that, and they just respond really well.
Nice. Is this more of emergency training or just training altogether?
It's all together training. So emergency for sure, and hazmat, it's a big applications, but even in in the semiconductor industry or manufacturing, we're seeing many employers looking to bring on train new employees or students, but they're going to be exposed to technologies they haven't been working on before, or new technologies that are going to be arriving in America, so we can reshore manufacturing. So how do you do that quickly, and how do you access rural communities where they can't necessarily travel out to the equipment? Well, the best way to do that is to build an immersive environment to get them exposed to it, have them become familiar with all the various components, all of the actions within the cadence of the way they do their job. How do you approach it? What are the various situations where they need to escalate? All of that can be provided in an immersive environment. So we talk about crawl, walk, run. Well, we can get them crawling and walking. They'll need eventually to access the equipment, but it's such a step up when they can experience most of those things. And by the way, it can be monitored remotely by facilitators. They can see what's happening. They can, test, fail, redo it. And so it's quite useful that way. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be fully immersive. It's just providing that content online. We see distance learning as well. That could be part of immersive. So there's the various levels of maturity within immersive learning.
Sounds good. I know there's a lot of competition out there. What sets you apart What comes easy to you that other people find challenging?
I think being kind of a startup, it allows us a little bit of a flexibility. So our platform has integrated AI as much as possible in this space, where when possible, our renderings can be AI assisted. Now, it's a slippery slope in terms of getting the fidelity of your graphics. They talk about hallucinations from content, but the same thing happens in graphics. You see the people with six fingers or, things like that. So we have very tight guardrails in the LLMs we create. But what we do leverage it that way. We leverage AI as much as possible. Also, we have an experienced team that have been working before in previous companies and have really seen many cycles and iterations of innovation and kind of how we got here with the variety of tools and things like that. We're able to leverage a really unique suite of tools, platforms, and accelerators within different areas of the immersive environment landscape and lifecycle.
Awesome. Um, if someone listening wants to get better at what you do, what tips and tricks would you give them?
I think the within this space, within immersive learning, I think the first thing to do is really just, buy yourself an inexpensive, Oculus 3, and, Black Friday's coming up here. Pick one up, use it, and see all of the great applications from the gaming side or from the experience side. That's the other thing. These virtual museum tours that you can do are absolutely incredible. You can experience the world now in ways, you know, back in the 3D Max theaters were great, but now it's even better with some of this, and the fidelity is incredible. And then if you think this is an area that you're really interested in, I would, start to pursue and start to follow different. There's many groups out there, but Meta's going to have the Orion glasses soon, and you're going to have AR overlays in everything we do. Our phone has AR and things like that, and even the way that we're going to migrate and utilize our phones very soon is going to switch to that augmented reality kind of interaction where we likely will, or maybe have a hybrid, but we're likely going to abandon that phone that we're holding, and we will come back to some form of class overlay where we interact with the world around us in a different way, but in a way that's quite exciting. And all of the information with our environment will be available to us right in front. And if you're still holding your handheld, even today, you can have that AR environment as you're walking. There's many apps out there, but I think just be curious and inquisitive to start and see if it's an area you want to get into. But it's definitely reshaping the way
We
we
learn.
experience the world, and we learn as well.
I agree wholeheartedly. So, what's one of the biggest challenges you had to overcome in your career and what you're doing?
Yeah, so leading up to this, spent my career in management consulting with a variety of big five firms and IT, firms, and I think one of the constant flavors or things that's always occurring with technology, let's say, or with innovation, is how do you keep track of what matters to customers and what matters to your clients? And not every disruption is going to be a game changer in terms of where the world moves and so on. So some things had a lot of hype, and people get excited about it, they invest, and nothing really happens. So really understanding where to put your, let's say from the CIO's hat, the chief information officer or technology officer needs to understand, well, where am I going to invest my money to react to, this disruption, to future-proof this aspect of our business. Don't overreact, but don't ignore things that occur really quickly. So some of the big ones that we've seen over the past couple decades. So way back, a couple decades ago, when in the mid '90s, when internet just disrupted everything, so that the whole brick and mortar movement, that was something that was quite profound, and there was a big movement, and everybody had their own journey on how they delivered their services to their customers, and it was an industry creator. We see what happened to Netflix to Blockbuster, Uber to taxis, but it can go on and on with just apps or websites and Amazon. And then there's other ones. Mobility changed things a lot. The way that we receive our content, cloud, has changed things a lot, but nothing comes close to what we're seeing today for the last 3 years in terms of AI. And that is, so, when do you respond? When don't you respond? And this is a big one. This is a big one that affects the way you do your work and the industries that will survive in terms of having humans providing the services versus industries that will be fully augmented by AI. And in some cases, it's a wonderful thing. In other cases, we need to sit back a little bit and think about what is the way we can respond to this. And but getting back to your original question, how do you, what are the challenges? I think it's really just understanding what's a real disruptor and what is more of a cool utility out there, but maybe doesn't affect how industry will change.
That's a good point right there. That's a real good point. What's a real disruptor, and what's not fluff, but an augment to it. What is the big change? That's a very good point. That's a very good point. So hey, is there been any books or podcasts or something that's changed things for you?
I think throughout my career, it hasn't been one thing. I'm interested in industry, so I always have CNBC on in the morning, and not everything that appears on CNBC provides you with insights into it, but you certainly get the macro trends or the mega trends of what's happening here and there. I think that just has always provided me with the ability to stay relevant in certain areas. And just having a variety of sources of information. It's not necessarily one, but just being curious in an area and being passionate about something is really important. And then if you find yourself stagnating in a certain area, ask yourself, well, what do I love? What do I really want to do? And then maybe sit back and really understand what that is, and say, how can I be part of this? And what would I want to do so you can authentically enjoy your life and kind of merge what you do. We all want it. We all want that balance, but be passionate about what we do so that work doesn't feel like work.
You enjoy what you do. If you enjoy what you do, you're not really working.
That's right. I mean, I just love having conversations with people that are really curious about the world around them, and authentically have engage with them and see how they plan to, if it's on the business side, how they plan to grow or serve their customers better. What's the best way to do that? Or if it's on the public side, whether it's state or federal, what's the best way to serve your community and give them the tools they need to succeed, or drive those social outcomes, I guess, for them. And again, it's just enjoying that whole process.
Awesome. Sounds like things are going pretty well for you. Have you ever created passive income, making money without doing so much work? And how did you do it?
I think one thing that's overlooked is stock options in the market, from not the standpoint of speculating, but from the standpoint of providing income in a predictable way. So people talk about real estate investment, which is good. Let's say you buy something and you rent it out, and that's great. And then it appreciates over time and it's all good. But let's say you're an investor and you own 100 shares of a stock you don't plan on holding, something that's a good stock. And what you do instead is you sell call options against that, way out above the strike price. So let the strike price being where it is today. And a good example is, let's say you hold a blue chip company like an Apple, and you have 100 shares of it. It could be any company, though. You can sell a call option against that and receive money, so funds, because you're giving someone the option to buy it at a higher strike price in the future. And that's like renting your shares. It's just like renting an apartment. So,
and if you do sell it, you're making money also.
You're making money also. So let's say, I don't know, let's just but any stock's trading at $100. You're happy with it. You're going to hold it forever. Great. It'll probably go up if you have the right fundamentals
Great
and
stock.
great stock. You're good. You're going to hold it. But maybe every month you sell $110 strike against it, and for that you get $100 on that $100 stock. But so someone's giving you $1 times 100 shares, so $1, and that goes into your account. If it gets to $110, you've made 10% because you had it at 100, and you also got an extra 100 because you've sold it. So you lose your stock at $110, and plus the dollar they gave you, which was income, you lost it. But most of the time, you're not going to lose your stock. So if it closed at 108 at the end of the month, you got that extra $100. You still own your stock at 108. You can't lose if you planned on holding it. The only way you lose is you're capping your upside if it gets called against you, but it's not a real loss. You've made money. So renting your stocks as a form of income, renting your stock as a form of income is overlooked by many, and it isn't terribly complicated.
Sounds interesting. Yeah, that is a good way to make money without doing a lot of work. Appreciate that. Wrapping up the interviewing, what do you got exciting plans for the next 6 to 12 months? What's coming up great for Solo? Just so you know, Solo, when I saw that in our emails, when I was a kid, I had a Solo bike, which was a bike with a motor on top of it. And this is
That's
back
awesome.
in the day, probably before you were even born.
Well, so SoloXR, we're getting increasingly involved in a number of areas. I mentioned a little bit about semiconductors, but we have a a new approach to learning that we've launched with NC State, and we have this EPAC lab program. There's almost like a mobile box where you'll have not portable, but almost mobile boxes sitting aside community colleges, but also industry where they can train, you can manufacture semiconductors, and then also there'll be an immersive component for that box. When I say box, it's a shipping container. That's something really cool that we're going to be launching. We have everything in place, so we're just getting the right partnerships lined up. That's something really neat. We've got some really interesting things going on in the metaverse side with a pageant, but it's confidential right now. It should be coming up soon. And we have a couple other things going on that I don't know if I can share all of it, but I would say within healthcare and that are going to be really neat. Some of our solutions. So we're just enjoying it. We love experimenting with technology, and we're having a great time.
Awesome. Well, listen, I can't thank you enough for being on the podcast. Really do appreciate it. And if anybody would like to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Yeah, sure. You can just visit us at www.soloxr.com and hit the contact us button, and let's just have a conversation.
Awesome. Thank you very much for being on the podcast. I do appreciate it. And for everybody else, please like and subscribe and hit the notification button on the bottom here. Appreciate your time, and thanks for all your wealth of knowledge. Appreciate you, Robert.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.